Hey everybody, welcome to what is it? February 11th MakerDAO community call. My name's David. I work for the foundation doing community development here at Maker, and I get to facilitate these calls every Tuesday. And as you guys might have heard me say this many weeks in a row, but the purpose of this call is to kind of bring everybody up to date about what's been going on in the Maker universe and in the DeFi universe over the last week. I typically try to get like an interesting guest on the call. We go over updates in governance, updates in our community, highlights from what the community's been working on, highlights for integrations. Pretty much trying to cover the whole kind of surface level timeline of what's been going on for the last week. So today, we're gonna have a guest on the call who's I actually don't know if Nikola has been on the guest before, but we have been on the call before. But I know that DeFiSaver has, and I think it was Nenad who was on the call before. But a lot of stuff has been going on with DeFiSaver, and we wanted to get Nikola on the call to talk about it. And so, Nikola, feel free to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of an overview of what you do with DeFiSaver.
Hey David, I'm very happy to be here. Actually, you're right. Nenad was on the call a few months ago, not me personally. So I'm Nikola. I handle front-end development and basically UX for DeFiSaver, and now, as of recently, DeFi Explorer. So I'm not sure if I should introduce DeFiSaver.
Yeah, definitely. So how long have you actually been doing the front end stuff?
Me personally, as in on DeFiSaver, or
Yeah.
right. So DeFiSaver launched, I think, in May last year. I joined the project full time. I think was it August or something?
Nice.
Before it was in the beginning, it was like a 2 or 3 person project as an MVP, and it actually launched as a CDP Maker CDP management service, basically.
Yeah, I remember. It used to be CDP Saver, right?
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's right.
We had like boost and repay, which was cool at the time. And though we sort of branched out greatly after that, we actually have a full CDP and Vault integration with some advanced features like boost and repay and automation. We have full compound support. We have compound DSR, DYDX, and Fulcrum support for our savings platform, and we integrate I think it's Kyber, Oasis, Uniswap, and 0x for our integrated exchange.
And that's through the OX API that they just recently launched, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I read about that, and it's like it's so cool to see DEX aggregators just keep like rising up a level and another level and another level. So I know that DeFiSaver originally started as like a platform to make it easy for users to manage their CDP with features that maybe like the base Maker protocol doesn't offer. So tell me, if you want, you could even share your screen and kind of go through where you guys are at now, because I know you guys have just consistently been updating the site, and it's really been fun to see you guys grow.
Right. Well, you're right. We basically started off as a third-party DeFi management solution, and in order to be relevant to users, we actually try to provide as much additional value as possible. We did that, obviously, as you mentioned, by increasing the ease of use, by abstracting a lot of things, providing advanced features like boost and repay, sort of complementing the protocol, so to speak. We also try to sort of minimize the risks of using DeFi products. We launched CDP automation, I think it's like maybe 4 months ago, which, I mean, basically what it does, you set an upper limit and a lower limit for your CDP ratio, and we sort of automatically repay it if it falls below a certain threshold when the price drops, and automatically leverage it more when the price increases, like it has been in the recent bull market.
So,
I mean,
do you have like some statistics, like some numbers around the usage of this feature
yeah,
in the last 4 months?
I was just gonna say we have like around 200 volts in total right now. I think it's like 186 volts and maybe 15 to 20 CDPs, like single collateral CDPs. So around 200 volts. I think it's like 16 million in dollars for the collateral overall.
Yeah,
So I
that's
mean,
awesome.
yeah, the numbers have been rising. I mean, the feedback was actually just phenomenal. I mean, back when we had like the out of nowhere bear market, I think it was November. It was basically recently after we launched. We had like I want to say 50-ish CDPs, and just the price just dropped in the matter of 2 hours, and we just saved. I think I don't have the exact numbers for that one, but over the night we saved like a whole bunch of CDPs, and just the first wave of feedback was phenomenal. And we only sort of went further from there, sort of adding safer and safer measures to sort of completely prevent liquidation and upgrading the system as we went.
Nice. So tell me a bit about like some of the newer features that you guys have added recently, and like what like a user today can like find on the site.
Right. So in addition to sort of minimizing the risks, we sort of try to, well, as I said, sort of increase the ease of use. I want to share my screen just for a sec.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Right. So I want to. So this is the CDP management. I hope you can see my screen, right?
Yeah, yeah, we could see it.
Right. So this is basically the CDP management screen, which is. I'm just gonna. Sorry. Just gonna quit. Yeah. So this is the automation stuff I was talking about earlier. So basically, you have a setting for your automatic repays, setting your lower threshold and your upper threshold, and sort of letting the automation service boost it and repay it automatically. And over here, you can basically see the list of automatic boosts that have actually recently happened due to the price rise. Right. So anyway, that was the stuff I was talking about earlier. This is pretty cool. We have a smart savings feature that basically integrates Compound, DYDX, and Fulcrum and DSR as a recent, allowing the users to sort of quickly shift between protocols when the APY, APR rates sort of change between them. So right now, Fulcrum is sort of the highest. Fulcrum has been the highest for a while, with the double digits now for the APY. But the rates sort of fluctuate often. So this has been actually, I don't have the exact numbers, but we've also had some pretty nice feedback for this. And well, Compound is basically just Compound integration as Compound Finance does it, with some sort of CDP and Compound bridging. But we've also recently launched DeFi Explorer, which is basically so in addition to sort of reducing the risk and increasing usability overall, we sort of try to work on data visibility on the chain. I mean, everything is public, but it's not really public because we can't really be sure what is actually going on. So this is basically either scan for DeFi, currently mainly MakerWallet, but DeFi in general is planned. So right now you can sort of check out your MCD, your wallet. You can check out your own address or a specific transaction. So we have like a list of CDPs here. So if you take a look, you can basically see the state of your CDP with complete history. You can basically check your own account with like completely historical data. And you can also like check out transactions. This is actually pretty cool. Well, I really like working on this. So sort of when we launched DeFi Explorer, it was pretty cool, but it was sort of like a basic Explorer. But what we did, we integrated with Tenderly, which is a cool app built by fellow developers from Serbia as well. That actually does debugging of transactions on chain. So I'm just gonna go ahead and show you. This is a transaction that was actually reverted. This is a transaction that was right. It was a boost transaction, and it actually failed. But you can actually so we sort of fetch the on-chain data from Tenderly and sort of display it as a way to debug why your transaction failed. You can actually open the debugger if you want to go into in depth with the technical stuff. But we try to sort of offer an explanation and a possible solution for failed transactions.
This is really cool. I like this a lot.
Right. This is actually this is another example. It's basically the user didn't have enough DAI to complete the transaction, and we sort of parse the data from the chain and try to let them know what actually happened. So that was actually that's what was going on DeFi Explorer recently. But I sort of tried to rush this today so I can show everyone. I was working on this. This is actually a CDP simulator. So basically what you do, you set a certain amount of ETH and a certain amount of depth that you sort of would have added or would have created your CDP on a certain date. You can actually set up automation, like I mentioned before. And basically what you can do is visualize your CDP ratio over time. So basically what I did here is I made a CDP January 2nd, and this is my CDP ratio over time with the ETH price. And so obviously you can see some spikes. Those are actually automatic boosts for automatic leveraging that I mentioned earlier with the automation. And you can see you can actually check out my CDP profit as the price was rising. And another, well, this is actually for obviously for historical data, but we sort of wanted to let the users test how their CDP would have worked if the price went up from here or went down from here. So what I was working on is this bull run / bear run feature, which basically lets you simulate what would happen if the price went up and down. So you can basically just add 1 week of bull run and then 1 week of bear run for the price dropping.
That's so cool.
Right. And over here you can see your sort of profit with the automation on, and if you just had no automation whatsoever. So basically you can just sort of add your current CDP for today and maybe simulate like if the price went up, it kept going up, and then if it dropped, you can basically visualize what your profits would have been or will be, hopefully. So I tried to rush this today so people can check it out. So it's available on DeFiExplorer.com and it's right there on simulation. So this is like super beta and super early, but hopefully it's gonna be fun for someone.
Very cool. So does DeFi Explorer intend to also integrate other protocols like Compound, DYDX, like even like maybe token sets, things like that, and become like a general like address portfolio tracker, or is it very, very focused for the Maker protocol?
Right. So currently we are focusing mainly on Maker, even though we support Compound as well, and we're not completely sure where we're going to be like 6 months from here, obviously. But right now, most of our efforts are on Maker and Compound, as well as the mentioned Smart Savings, which does integrate DYDX, Fulcrum, or I think you mentioned DYDX. But mainly for DAI savings. Regarding management of other platforms, we're actually not sure at the moment. We are in talks with certain platforms, but we don't have a concrete plan. Right now, we're just working on those two. Well, I guess Maker Compound and our Smart Savings feature as well as sort of increasing the overall visibility and ease of use through DeFi Store.
Nice. I want to take this second just to say, if anybody in the call has any questions for Nikola, definitely feel free to jump on.
And Nikola, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I love everything you're doing. I'm a big fan, but there's one thing though. When are you going to rename CDPs to Vault?
That's a good question, and we've had a few discussions, I think, on Reddit. I think our community manager is here. Nikola is another Nikola is on the call as well. I think, in fact, maybe just the two of you have had some discussions. He's right there. So we were very aware of the naming that Maker has chosen when releasing multi-collateral DAI. But sort of because the overall migration was already confusing enough for a majority of users or for certain users, we tried to make it as little as complicated as possible by sort of not adding the new terms yet. So whether if it's the right way or not, we're sort of trying to slowly transition everyone to the new system and the new nomenclature and everything. So we're not obviously against calling things vaults. We just wanted to sort of put the users first and then the technicalities after that. Thanks for the nice words. I'm glad you like our stuff.
Nikola, I have a question for you. I think
Please.
This would be almost perfect matching with Gelato that's out there with that swaps that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that new project. So if you have, you reach a certain level, like, you give a percentage of your CDS to, if it reaches this point, then you can go into Fulcrum and, double X or triple X the position. So even, you can make another trade out of it. So you can split the trade to go, you can leverage your position. If you think the market, like how the market goes up today, if you hit certain percentage, you can even margin out and go even higher.
Right. I haven't heard of the specific project personally. Maybe someone from my team has, but what we have been discussing recently were like more advanced forms of vault automation. So some things we were discussing were sort of having your CDP automatically close when reaching a certain profit, or there was a lot of talk of different forms of automation. So this might be something we might look into. Thanks for the suggestion. Anyway, I can't say I personally know the project.
I will send it to David, the project, and you can look at it.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Nice. So I noticed also you guys introduced the notifications feature. So are you guys going to be doing anything in regards to like using users' emails or like having users set up accounts through you guys and you offering services through that kind of model? Or I'm curious about just the general like business model of DeFiSaver and where it's heading.
Right. As for the business model, we sort of tried to provide as much value as possible and obviously take a cut when deserved, so it works both ways. As for the notification feature, it sort of came to existence because we need a way to communicate to users directly, and I mean, people managing DeFi aren't really the sort of people that want to give out emails mostly. And it's not really it's not really the preferred way to sort of communicate, I guess. And this actually worked. This actually worked out great because the notification system allows us to sort of target ETH addresses directly. So in case of emergencies, like in case of like I can't think of an emergency, but in case an emergency exists regarding a user CDP, like maybe it's critically low, and it's not subscribed to automation, maybe the price drop down, and we need to sort of let the user know quickly so they can react. And I mean, we just try to solve the situation where we need to notify the user of something, but the user hasn't given us sort of a permission to contact them in a way of email. So
yeah, in a push way, yeah.
Right. That was the idea behind it. It wasn't like to sort of advertise features or
Yeah, of course, of course.
That kind.
Yeah, I think in Maker governance we struggle with like a very similar issue where, you know, like I don't think MKR voters are necessarily the ones that want to give up, you know, and subscribe to an email list explicitly, but you know, more and more the challenge is how do we distribute this like important information that Maker voters should base their votes on, and it's the same thing with like DeFi services. You know, how do you? I mean, obviously it has to be like opt-in, right? Like if somebody wants pushed notifications, like it has to be opt-in. But if you're able to just connect to an ETH address and have it in the UI, like that's, I don't think that that's controversial at all. But yeah, no, I totally respect it, which is why I was asking, because maybe like some like the way that I always think about it, or how I've been thinking about it lately, is that I imagine like a lot of DeFi users are very you know, privacy centric and like don't want to give up their emails. But I imagine that there is a subset of customers of users of these protocols that are willing and are, you know, just inclined to be more transparent with that kind of stuff and trusting companies. But of course, like it's totally one of the ethical decisions that every company in our space has to wrestle with right now.
Well, if I can expand on what you were saying, we actually had an automatic migration system for sort of migrating from single collateral to multi-collateral, right?
Right.
And so obviously set up your CDP, and it gets migrated when the available DAI is sufficient. And we actually did collect emails for that service, but it was sort of a specific opt-in, like for the specific action. And though it did come in handy when we sort of had to notify users of like some emergencies. And we're definitely looking, we're actually definitely discussing sort of adding an additional opt-in level of notifications, like actually the user being able to submit the email directly and sort of get notifications in their inbox, because obviously you're going to get push notifications instead of a notification on the DeFiSaver app. Though there are some privacy issues there, because we don't, you know, in Web3 you don't have a login, so you're going to have to figure out a different way to sort of authenticate users, and then you have to explain to users why they have to sign a message or something similar. So it's like a whole layer of problems.
I have a theoretical question for you. Do you ever see something like two-factor authentication somehow being integrated with like cryptocurrency wallets and the general like user flow for using these kinds of apps?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it basically, talking about two-factor authentication, it's you can't really talk about DeFi apps because the user controls everything. So you're talking about wallets,
right? Yeah.
And I mean, personally, I do like the idea Argent had with guardians, I think they call them. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, you can't really predict where it's going.
Right.
But yeah, the way it's right now, the way it is right now, where you have private key, and it's just sort of the single point of failure, basically, is obviously not ideal. So definitely two-factor authentication stuff. I think there's a lot of Grosses, I think has been doing some similar stuff, if I recall correctly. And I mean, I can totally see the industry sort of going in that direction as we progress.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it's super interesting to hear people's opinions on that, because yeah, I think one of the biggest things that people that I talk to are afraid of, they're like, okay, you know, what if I lose my keys? You know, what if this is kind of like a whole different paradigm compared to what they're used to, you know? But yeah, cool. I respect that. That's great. All right, so we're coming up on half an hour into the call. If anybody has any like sort of final questions for Nikola, definitely shout them out. And Nikola, I think for maybe the last couple questions I might have for you is what's a good question? I was gonna ask maybe more about the roadmap, but I think you already spoke a lot about what you guys see for the potential future and kind of what your goal is in helping users use these DeFi protocols. Uh, maybe a funner question. What's your most exciting DApp or application that you want to see created outside of DeFiSaver? Like what you guys are working on?
That's a very good question. That's a fun question, definitely. So a lot of it's an odd question because a lot of the crazy ideas we had, me and both the people I work with, we actually ended up building over time because Decenter, the company or the small team behind DeFiSaver, actually exists for two and a half years, and we've had a bunch of dApps before DeFiSaver. So the one was like really fun for me, and the one that I really like as an idea was cryptographics. It's like this app. So you basically have this. You have three parts. You basically have artists that basically create asset packs. So those are like basically small graphic pieces. Pieces like could be a circle or a square or like a mini drawing.
Right.
And then you have sort of creators that use the artists' asset packs and sort of create these randomly generated graphics. But they're like you have this algorithm. You have the seed, and then the algorithm iterates over the seed and sort of creates the actual artwork from the seed. And the seed is actually stored on the chain. So, and the assets are stored on IPFS. So basically, the artist can come and just click the button for like generate, and then get a really cool artwork that's sort of abstract and store it on the chain. And then you have this pretty cool looking artwork that's provably unique and provably yours. And it's like we sort of built it like maybe a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. It's been a while, but at the time it was just such a new concept that you're able to sort of create this artwork that's provably unique, and you can sort of just prove it came into existence at that time, like mathematically prove it, and it's sort of generated every time you look at every time you want to view it, and it's generated from IPFS 5. And it was just like a lot of cool new concepts at the time.
Yeah, that is really interesting intersection of like art and blockchain and like permanence and all that stuff. Yeah, that's really interesting. I bet.
Sorry, like keep in mind it's like pre NFTs and pre. I think Super Rare is doing something similar right now. But it's like all like 2 years ago, like way before that.
Yeah, right on. This is really cool. Nice, good answer. All right, well, for the rest of the call, I'm gonna go through the usual agenda, but yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on the call again. It was really great to see an update on what you guys have been working on and to get a little bit of insight into where your minds are and what we might be able to see in the next 6 months to a year. It's gonna be good.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right, cool. So let's go through some governance stuff. And actually, I think I'm going to present my screen to make it a bit easier. Give me just a moment. And also apologies for my voice. I'm a little bit under the weather this week, as you might hear. But yeah, cool. So let's go through some of the stuff that's been going on. We actually saw last week's executive vote pass. So this vote made the DSR spread go up from 25 basis points to 50 basis points, which means that, well, actually, it's kind of confusing to explain, but because the ETH and BAT stability fees were voted down from 9% to 8%, now because of the 0.5% DSR spread, the actual DSR went down from 8.75 to 7.5. So that's why now if you have DAI in the DSR, you're earning 7.5 instead of last week's nicer rate. But regardless, another part of the executive vote was that the size stability fee was lowered. So across the board, you just saw like a 1% lowering of the stability fees. And yeah, and there's a kind of a big conversation going on in the community around the reasoning behind the DSR spread vote, which actually happens to be the most popular poll that's happening right now. So the weekly polls went out on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we had a few of the usual ones and a few unique ones. So I'll go kind of from top to bottom of my list. But one poll that is going on right now is whether or not we should suspend monetary policy votes when there's emergency technical changes to be made to the system. So there was a lot of conversation about why it's actually very good to split these up, and why if you have them bundled, it might cause undue friction, and it might cause votes to not pass and to actually take longer on the whole to get anything passed. So I think yes was a clear winner. I don't think there's anybody voting for the no option, if I remember correctly, but there's 14 unique voters with around 22,000 MKR voting for this option. Yeah, so and then next we have the debt ceiling adjustment poll. The only debt ceiling that this is adjusting is the side debt ceiling, not the any of the multi-collateral DAI debt ceilings. So if this passes, which at the moment it seems that 16 people are voting yes with 22,000 MKR, it's going to lower the side debt ceiling by 5 million to 25 million. So right now it's 30, it'll be 25 if this gets into next week's executive or Friday's executive and that passes. The other three are the usual polls that run every week as part of the monetary policy polls. So this is for the size stability fee. It's actually winning with 9%. This is the current stability fee. So basically a vote for no change is winning. And that has the least amount of voters, or actually, no. Yeah, the second least amount of voters at 8.6 thousand MKR voting with 16 unique voters. The DAI stability fee is also being voted to stay at what it is right now, 8%. And that has 17 voters with about 7,500 MKR. And then lastly, the most popular governance poll that's going on this week is the DSR spread adjustment. And we're seeing something really interesting here. So the spread is, well, currently 0% is winning, but for the last couple of days, 0.5% was winning. And I think that in public, there's a lot of conversation about why there's a business case to be made for a 0% spread, and why that seems to be what the community sentiment is. But there's a large MKR holder who is voting on a higher spread, which isn't necessarily like a bad thing. But what's interesting is that this voter, like there's no like public case being made for explicitly why, except only in theory. So people in the couple of threads that I've seen have been kind of putting out their reasoning for, if they were this person, why would they be voting for this? And there's some good reasons in there. But regardless, yeah, there's a couple threads actually for this discussion. So if you are the MKR holder who's voting on this, definitely share your reasoning, because I think that that's valuable to like the greater governance community, and also just interesting, in general. All right, cool. So the summary of last week's risk and governance call that happens every Thursday has not been out yet. It's going to be out shortly, hopefully by tonight or tomorrow afternoon. If you want a snapshot of what's going on in governance, visit the Governance at a Glance thread. Currently, like the most recent and interesting threads that I've outlined are who's voting for the 15K MKR increase to the DSR spread. Oh yeah, wait, actually, hold on. I think I mixed up the my explanation. I think it was that 16,000 was voting for 2% before, not just 50 basis points, but 200 basis points. I'm gonna just really quickly double check that here. yeah, the vote breakdown should load in a sec, but yeah, if it was for 2%, then it's a little bit clearer. Oh yeah, no, there's there's actually still. Oh, so I actually missed a bit. So yeah, there's 16,000 on 2%, 16,000 on 0.5%, and the winning option with 20,000 MKR is 0. So yeah, really interesting distribution of votes. And 6K on 2%. So yeah, to figure out the reasoning behind these votes would be really interesting, and some of the conversations going on are definitely worth reading if you have time. In regards to the governance delay, this has been something that the community has been bringing up recently. Is when are we going to revisit the decision on doing a vote on the governance delay? So Wouter and the technical team are going to be presenting a proposed solution, or just giving an update on this on the Thursday's governance and risk call. So stay tuned, and we're going to have more for the community on that shortly. And then we also have a really interesting signal request, whether we should reduce the frequency of the DSR spread governance poll. Right now it's happening every week as part of the regular monetary policy polls, but there's arguments to be made why it should be less frequent, mainly that high frequency kind of disrupts the signal of the effect of such changes. So it's actually kind of good from a data perspective to do less decisions spread out over more time, and that way you have a better idea of what your decisions actually do. So that's kind of been the main argument, but in general, it's probably a good idea to lower the cadence because it also increases governance bandwidth to do other things. So yeah, read through the poll, weigh the pros and cons for yourself, and make a vote if you're an MKR holder. All right, cool. That's about it for the governance stuff. Definitely feel free to jump in if I missed anything. I know a couple people who might be even more up to date than me are in here. But I'll be moving forward to the partnerships, integrations, and grants. We saw GrowFi collaborating with us. So GrowFi is a crowdsourcing token distribution platform for open source projects. So you could, I think, go and fund interesting things with DAI. We've also done a partnership with Instars, so users all over the world can participate in market research, such as surveys. They could upload receipts and receive DAI as payment for this data that they are giving this company. And so to start, they're doing like an exclusive referral bonus for users in the US, and it pays $5 for each person that you refer that does the KYC and all that. So it's a cool little side gig if you're looking for some extra DAI to make here or there. Which is always fun to check out. Next, from the foundation, we actually put out a few different articles in line with our like getting started with crypto series. We put out a piece called "How Do Cryptocurrencies Have Value and Why Should I Care?" This is good for anybody who's just beginning to think about crypto or considering like why is crypto even a thing? Why does it matter? Good introductory article. We also released a bounty for ETH Denver. It's kind of a side bounty that there's a main track for creating a Splunk dashboard, but we also have the side bounty to create a dashboard for Dappy Hour. So every attempt at this is going to receive 50 DAI. So as long as you follow the requirements of submission, which is that you just have to email your source code to this email and CC me, then you're going to get 50 DAI no matter what you build. So definitely try it out. And then if you bring it to the Dappy Hour and we decide that it's our favorite, you're going to get a 250 DAI prize and also like a nice basket filled with cool swag and things of that nature. So if you know anybody who likes to play with data visualization and on-chain transactions and all that good stuff, send them this link and definitely have them participate. We also saw, so if you're coming to ETH Denver Sunday night, join us for the much cooler Dappy Hour. That's where we're going to be checking out these really cool dashboards, and we just have a ton of really cool stuff planned for this. So definitely check out the event page, read through. There's going to be some cool tech being on display. All right, so coming up on highlights from the community, we saw Adrian, who's been recently super active in our community, doing a weekly digest, and he's been kind of giving an update on votes that are going on. It's very similar to kind of the wrap up that I do, and he's been working with the community to kind of polish it up. So if you have any feedback on his weekly newsletter that he's been doing, definitely comment on the Reddit thread, come into community development, tag him. And in general, like our communities here, we're trying to make good digestible resources for anybody. And Adrian has been doing a cool thing. So definitely help him out with some feedback if you have any. We were also listed on, and by we, I mean the DSR through oasis.app/save has been listed on DeFi Score, and we got a 9.7 rating. So if you guys don't know what DeFi Score is, it's a consensus run risk rating like board. And basically they gave us a 9.7 rating, which is the highest out of all of the platforms. And that's because the DSR is the only yield or accrual producing thing that like doesn't have liquidity constraints, right? So Compound has liquidity constraints, DSR doesn't. Yeah, you could read a bit more about it on their site. I'm kind of waffling a bit, so forgive me. But yeah, we got a really good rating, and that's really nice to see the DSR being recognized for that. We also saw a fun little fact that Mariano Conti threw out, was that the DSR DAI flipped the ERC20 count, which is really funny since we passed 50% utilization rate. That technically means that there's more DAI in the DSR than there are ERC20 tokens, which is, arbitrary and kind of like just a technical detail, but still fun to observe. As many of you know, we hit the 1 billion locked in Ethereum's DeFi mark that everybody's been going crazy over. And I guess I'll take this opportunity to glory in Maker's 60% dominance. So that's been fun. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Nikola is asking if the stock is available. Yeah, you could check it out there. And I have the 2019 version. So if you're looking for, if anybody on the call who's watching the recording is looking for an older agenda, you can just look in the description, and I should have everything linked there. Linked there. Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm feeling a little under the weather, guys. Apologies. No, my voice is getting a bit raspy. All right, cool. So let me wrap it up then. Some developer creations that have been going on in the community. Really exciting times. Amin has proposed, and I don't know if it's actually launched already, but MetaCoin, which is an alternative to MakerDAO, and he posted an ETH research thread about it. So definitely check that out. It's an interesting. I don't want to call it like an attack on Maker. Yeah, it's like a healthy criticism, and I think it's really healthy to see things like this pop up. So definitely go check it out and engage. We also saw, DeFiSaver integrated OX so that they could use the DEX aggregation services a lot easier and offer that to people that are using their platform. We saw Vishesh doing new visualizations of DAI trades, so he gave us a little sneak peek on Twitter, which I don't know, that's just something about it is satisfying, the colors or something. But yeah, it's really cool to see better visualization happening month over month. And we also saw Aztec mint the first 10,000 ZK DAI. Yeah, Aztec first 10,000 ZK DAI. Sorry, I'm just distracted reading the chat. So Christian Feld writes, you should make this into a newsletter as well, if that doesn't exist already. I think our hesitation at the foundation with the newsletter is that we don't want to like collect people's emails, just kind of from we haven't really prioritized making a newsletter, and we've been hoping that somebody from the community would kind of erupt organically, and we'd do the newsletter. Yeah, I hear you. Well, you know, a lot of people have been requesting it, so I think once a good one comes out, that'd be really great. But if anybody is writing a newsletter, this agenda is updated every Monday, and you could definitely feel free to steal from me, as long as you just tag me and give me credit. But yeah, feel free to use anything here. Anyway, all right, cool. So let me wrap this up. Yeah, Aztec first 10,000 ZK DAI. That's exciting. I haven't tested it myself yet or anything like that, so I'd be super curious to get somebody on the call if they want to talk about it. Maybe even somebody who works for Aztec. Some interesting articles. Maker MCD, a success in protocol upgrade and on-chain governance. This was a really cool piece that was actually written by, I think, Primož, and he goes into a ton of the details behind the migration and basically what's been going on for the last few months. And despite, you know, all kind of these side issues in Maker, you know, I think it's safe to say that the migration has and is so far been going really well, which is great to see. Yeah, I tagged this article from buildblockchain.tech about Aztec and the confidential transactions that they're bringing with ZK DAI. Yeah, another article by Decrypt about Amin, this bank chain CEO, and his radical plan for not DAI, the stablecoin, but for his own version of DAI, or for a version of DAI that he feels that a lot of the crypto community would like. Yeah, and then lastly, there was an article on crypto savings rates that I am blanking out on the name. Yeah, Nick Tomano wrote about, which is really cool. Nice intro to crypto savings rates for people that are getting into it. And yeah, for the last 10 minutes, I think I'm going to end the call a bit early just because I'm feeling under the weather. But really quickly, for real life events, obviously we have ETH Denver, but before that, we're going to be participating in the FinTech team meetup with Bitwala in Berlin. Gustav is going to be representing there tomorrow. And then on the 14th, ETH Denver starts, and we have a bunch of team members who are going to be there. Nick, Mariano, Ethan, Charles, me, Rich. Yeah, a bunch of people are going to be there. Definitely join us. I will be I will be in the hotel room drinking Dayquil until I get better. But hopefully I don't miss the first couple days of ETH Denver. And then yeah, join us for the much cooler Dappy Hour. And then finally afterwards in Tokyo, if any of you are going to be in Tokyo or are based in Tokyo, join us for this DeFi meetup. And all the links can be found in the agenda. And the agenda is linked below. But I'm going to skip the system segment of the week again. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go ahead. Actually, if Brian or Chris or somebody wants to take the system segment of the week, they could feel free to.
Good job, David. Get some rest.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. I will. Thank you. I will. All right, guys. Yeah. So I'm going to end the call here. Thanks.